Live from Chicago's Grant Park, this is National Public Radio's Jazz Alive. I'm Billy Taylor, coming to you live by satellite from the 2nd Annual Chicago Jazz Festival. Tonight's program is extra special because not only will we have some enormous jazz talent on stage, but because they've been brought together for a very special purpose. They're all here to honor the living memory of an artist whose contribution to American music was immeasurable. I'm talking about alto saxophonist Charlie Parker. That's the man we call Bird. He's been gone for 20 years. It's hard to believe, but for all of us, Bird lives, especially today, August 29th, 1980, the 60th anniversary of the birth of Charlie Parker. For those of us who had the honor to work with Bird, to study with him, to hang out with him, to share his tragic beauty, to be his friend, it was an experience we never want to forget. His influence on our music was sudden and lasting. That's why Bird is a living memory. Tonight, we all want to wish happy birthday to Bird and say we wish he was here. But to introduce the people who are here tonight, I'd like to turn the microphone over to our master of ceremonies for the evening, the incomparable Mr. Sid McCoy.
Hey, hey, old bean, and you too, baby. And to those of you to whom that is a lot of gibberish that doesn't make any sense, I would like to say good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this jazz festival. I have, for the last 13 years, been living on the West Coast, as you well know. And there's nothing that I enjoy more, and one of the advantages of leaving Chicago, where I was born, is the joy and the delight of coming home. And of course, that delight tonight is magnified 100-fold because I'm having an opportunity to see friends musically and otherwise that I have not seen for a very long time. Years ago, I used to say that if I ever made enough money, there was one thing I wanted to do. I wanted to have a little club or some kind of presentation room where I could invite the musicians that I love and respect and have the people, free of charge, come and listen. And the only requisite would be that they would enjoy it as much as I do. Well, this is taking place here. I never made the money, but I'm about to have the kicks of having those people performing for you here tonight. Our first salute to Charlie Parker's 60th birthday comes in the form of these 5 musicians that you see here on the stage. They take the person of Mr. George Hughes on drums, Jim Atlas on bass, a young man who I used to use one of his things as some background music on the show, the love theme from Spartacus. I used to call him Young John Young on the piano. And a gentleman that I've known for the last 20+ years, I won't go any farther than that, who is from a great musical family. There is Buzz Freeman, who is a very celebrated drummer and tennis pro. There is George Freeman, who is a great guitarist. And there is, of course, this excellent tenor man, Mr. Von Freeman. The gentleman who is playing trumpet, I think Cannonball introduced me to him first, as many years ago. And he introduced me to him because he was a friend of his and he was a man that he respected musically. And I came to enjoy that self-same respect for this gentleman. And he was about 15 years old. He was playing on 52nd Street with all the jazz greats, including Parker. And his musical experiences have been varied. He is today a record producer and owns his own recording company right here in Chicago. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Paul Serrano.
Thank you. Thank you. We are on a very short time schedule because everything at the concert is pretty well regulated to a time schedule. So we can't really go in and stretch out. So we'd like to cut some things short and cut some tunes out. At this time, we'd like to feature myself and Von Freeman only on a little ballad, Polka Dots and Moonbeams. Thank you.
Hear it for him, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. George Hughes on drums. Jim Atlas on bass. John Young at the piano. Von Freeman on tenor. And Mr. Paul Serrano on trumpet, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. There will be a brief pause while we get set up for our next group, and thank you for your kind indulgence.
It's easy to see why Chico Freeman is such a fine player. His father, Von Freeman, boy, sure gives the young guys a lot to think about. What a tenor player. And those exchanges with Paul Serrano were pretty special. The last tune that they were playing certainly gives a good indication of the kind of harmonic structure that bebop is based on, and the kinds of lines that Charlie Parker was instrumental in setting in motion. The kinds of melodies that really had something special going. You're listening to Jazz Alive's exclusive coverage of the 1980 Chicago Jazz Festival, coming to you live by satellite from Chicago's Grant Park. I'm Billy Taylor. Coming up next is the Red Rodney Ira Sullivan Quintet. And later tonight, we'll hear pianist Jay McShann and his Kansas City Quintet. Finally, to end the night, we'll have the Charlie Parker All-Stars. That's with Dizzy Gillespie, James Moody, Cecil Payne, Walter Bishop Jr., Ray Brown, and Max Roach. A bebop dream band, you better believe it. We're celebrating Charlie Parker's 60th birthday, the 60th anniversary of his birth, and the party's just started, so don't go away. Right now, we'll pause 10 seconds to allow our local stations to identify themselves. From Chicago, this is NPR, National Public Radio.
You're hearing live stereo coverage of the Chicago Jazz Festival on WBEZ Chicago.
Welcome back. This is Billy Taylor in Chicago at the second annual Chicago Jazz Festival, coming to you live by satellite from Chicago's Grant Park. In a moment, we'll hear the recently formed Red Rodney Ira Sullivan Quintet. Right now, we're going to take a break and go to Von Freeman. He's talking with Michael Cuscuna backstage.
Yeah, thank you, Billy. And we are backstage, and it looks like that'll be quite a set indeed, as Ira Sullivan is mounting the stage with a couple of dozen instruments. But an old friend of mine, Von Freeman.
Hi, Mike.
How are you doing? It's good.
Hey, fine.
It's a nice place to run into you.
Oh, hey, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to see you, too.
Yeah. Listen, I know that this was a very special town for Bird, so it's a very apropos
certainly.
Place for this. And that you did a lot of work with him at the
Persian Ballroom, yeah.
What was that like?
Oh, hey, it's hard for me to say. I was just a member of the band, and the man was so tremendous. He'd come in town, he'd inspire us. The little guy walking by here now, Chris Anderson, was on piano with me. My brother Bruz and George, and Victor Sproul's on bass.
No kidding.
And Victor happens to be here tonight, too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like the old times.
Yeah. It always seemed, I know that it's a popular, cutting sessions are a popular sport, but it seemed like Bird never got into that with other saxophone players.
Well, I think that everybody just admired him so much that nobody even thought that way, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that they don't admire others, but I'm just saying he was from the era where you just want to sit down and listen to him play.
Okay. Listen, I want to ask you, what have you been up to lately?
Well, I just got back from Europe with my son, Chico. He has a group out of New York featuring Billy Hart on drums and Donald Smith on piano. And Cat used to be with Coltrane, Reggie Workman on bass. So, and Chico is doing fine. I was traveling through Europe with him.
You must go downstairs and clear this area.
It was father and son act. You know, so that's all I've been doing. Hey, and my brother George told me to tell you hello too.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he should be here tonight.
Well, goodness, I certainly wish he was. It would certainly help things.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Oh, it smells like stuff. Spread it.
Yeah.
So, Mike, I'm telling you, I haven't seen you in years.
I know.
Since we cut that album back in 1850 it was.
Yeah, something like that.
Really?
I think they're getting ready now to get back to the stage. And it looks like Red's already near the stage. I'm going to run over there and see if I can try and catch him. Hey, Vaughn, thank you.
Hey, thank you. Okay. You were always one of my favorites. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Well, let me just amble back here and see what's happening.